Hello, Agile Pubcast listeners. Geoff Watts here with my good friend Paul Goddard. This is Agile Pubcast episode 123. 123. And today was a slightly different one. We were recording in the morning, so we were sharing our notes around our cup of tea and coffee rather than our alcoholic beverages. Paul was very happy, reflecting on his time back with real people last week in a lecture theatre, no less. And that got us somehow meandering on to talking about rituals and routines and the power of ritual. And we shared quite a few routines and rituals that you can use with your teams to increase energy, engagement, reduce anxiety, which I really enjoyed this episode. And one special thing, if you listen right to the end of this podcast, there will be a mysterious and exclusive offer from me just for Pubcast listeners. So make sure you listen to the end. That's it. Enjoy. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab whatever it is. If it's wine in a coffee cup, we're not judging. Cheers.
What have we got on today? Well, it feels like a long time since we've chatted, Geoff. It's a long time
When
since
was the
we've
last
spoken.
time?
Oh, I reckon, I don't know, probably 2-3 weeks ago. It feels like a long time since we've caught up.
You've missed me.
No, I didn't say that.
I know, but you didn't. You meant it.
But
You don't have to say it.
I feel like I've been quite busy. But
You're always busy. You're a busy boy.
I know, but October's been quite busy for me. Yeah, but let's do the boring bit. I say boring because we're not drinking alcohol today, are we? Well, I'm not.
No.
Because let's be honest, it's 9:36 in the morning, and me and Geoff, sometimes we're irresponsible, but we're not that irresponsible to start drinking that early. And I've got a nice mug of tea.
Oh yeah, what kind of tea?
Breakfast builder's tea. In my Mr.
How do you take your tea, sir?
In my Mr.
PG
Tickle
tips?
No, this is Yorkshire tea. Yorkshire tea. Decaf.
Yeah.
In my Mr. Tickle mug that I've had since I was at university.
Was that brought to you by Mr. Tickle?
No. Who would that be?
You have a friend called Mr. Tickle, don't you?
Do I? We've had this conversation before, and you seem to think I had a friend called Mr. Tickle.
Okay, maybe not.
No, but I'm quite sentimental when it comes to mugs. I've got a lot of mugs that I've kept for a long time, and this is one of them. My old Mr. Tickle mug. What you got, mate? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking an Ethiopian blend of coffee. Apparently, it has notes of treacle, dark chocolate, and cinnamon. I'm just getting coffee.
Yeah.
My palate isn't as distinguished as I would like to think, but I don't have milk or sugar in mine. It's just completely black. So maybe I've diluted it too much. Maybe it's meant to be more of an espresso when I've got an Americano. So
it's funny, isn't it? How palates. So you say, because you can taste. You're good on beer and you're good on wines and things like that.
Well, I'm getting better at it. It takes practice, doesn't it?
I assume it takes practice with coffee. Then I'm assuming the more of it you drink, the more you'd notice the differences.
Yeah, and I think, but also different time of day. So I'm usually having this when I'm tired. That's usually when you drink a coffee, isn't it? And then you're not really, your senses aren't on full alert. So
I remember when neither of us used to drink coffee in the morning, and we used to work with a man called Sean Hanley, didn't we? I wonder if Sean listens to this podcast. Probably not.
No.
But if you do, Sean, hello, good morning. And I remember we used to do some very early starts in Ipswich with Sean.
He was not a morning person.
He would a man in need of coffee at 8 a.m. in the morning or 9 a.m. And
I remember driving him somewhere Did he drive? I don't think he drove, did he?
I don't think no, because I gave him several lifts several times.
I had to give him a lift somewhere, and it was dark outside, so it was early. And it wasn't the middle of winter or anything, but he was wearing this big coat and this beanie hat pulled down over his eyes, and he was all huddled up in my passenger seat drinking out of a thermos flask.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't talk, basically, until he'd had his second coffee.
Yeah.
But a very, very sharp mind.
Yes.
And a very nice man.
Yeah. God bless you, Sean. Wherever you are, say hello. Drop us a text. Drop us a message.
Anyway, how are you? What have you got to talk about? You're busy, so you must have something to talk about.
I'm busy. I feel like I was very happy last week. This is an easy word to describe it, because I got the first time last week in a long time. I got back into a room with some real people.
Oh, I saw your Instagram photo with your very cheesy smile.
Yes, I was over the moon, Geoff. I was over the moon. It was lovely, and it wasn't just being. It was being in a room was a big part of it, of course, and there was real people in 3 dimensions, and it was lovely, and hearing people's reactions, and looking at people's body language and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But part of it as well, which is worth talking about here, is just it was the process of going out, of actually preparing, putting my bag together, a stationery, planning a session. Even though I plan sessions when I'm at home, but the planning felt different, the preparation felt different. Driving somewhere to parking somewhere, getting a coffee before I started, all that routine, I think I'd probably forgotten, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that process of going somewhere, doing something, then coming back.
Well, you used the word routine, and I would. We had a chat with Dr. Sally-Ann Freudenberg.
Yes,
recently,
we did,
and we pointed out how at one point she pulled me up on something that I said technically incorrectly, very, very nicely, and I'm at risk of saying something else technically incorrect. I don't know whether this is technically correct or not, but in my mind, what you've just described there is more rituals than routine.
Okay.
Because you don't do that on a regular basis. But what you've described there is the prelude to the act, and that power of ritual is rituals are very, very powerful. And where am I going with this? Well, it brought back to mind to me something, maybe because we were talking about drinking. But if I'm having a meal and I'm eating, and I think, I'm quite thirsty, and I want a sip of water. Quite often, just pouring water from a bottle into the cup is enough, and it's not a conscious thing. I noticed maybe a couple of minutes later, I didn't actually have that drink, but by pouring the water into the cup, I was expecting to have my thirst quenched because of the ritual, and that's enough quite often. And if you open a chocolate bar mindfully, consciously, you'll actually find yourself having a sense of pleasure from the act of opening the wrapper. I know you want to eat the chocolate, and you get in there too quickly. You'll demolish it. You'll almost eat the wrapper.
Oh yeah.
But that power of ritual is quite. So you actually felt good on the way, even before on the way, the preparation.
Yes. And even like I didn't fit. It wasn't. It's weird, Geoff. It wasn't really nerves. It wasn't because sometimes for a new client or a different context, a different setting, different business problems or questions that I don't know I'm going to be asked yet, I'd get quite nervous, which is completely natural, and many people in that situation would, and it's probably a good thing. But it wasn't a sense of nerves. It was a sense of anticipation and a sense of this is gonna. I knew I was going to enjoy it. I almost told myself, I convinced myself, regardless of what happens, it might be a complete shit show of a lecture that I was doing, but I was going to enjoy this because it was different, because it was new, because it was something that I hadn't done for such a long time. And I think I was just it's that kind of positive mindset, isn't it? That I convinced myself before I'd even spoke to anyone that I was going to have a good day. And it was lovely. It was great. Thoroughly recommend it.
Might need to make a note of the fact that you just threw out an S-bomb there. I might need to bleep that out. But there we go. The passion was coming through you. Yeah.
We're allowed to swear, aren't we? We're not allowed to swear.
Yeah, we are. It's an 18 certificated.
It's an advisory
podcast,
lyrics.
Isn't it? Yes. If we want to start doing some gangster rap, we're covered.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. It's a light swear, isn't it? There was something on the BBC. A slight aside there, Geoff. But there's three. They've I think Ofcom, isn't it? Ofcom have because I listen to a lot of radio in the mornings, and Ofcom have assessed swearing on the radio.
Oh, really?
So broadcasting into terms of words which are mildly, kind of mildly offensive and severely offensive.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to be able to give you some examples now, and we could do a whole thing on what do you think about this word, and then we could debrief all those. But let's not do that now. But
let's do that. No, let's do that. But we'll cut it out. And if people want the extended version, they can find the extended version. They can make an effort to find it. And we're back in the room.
And we're back.
So while you were doing that, I did actually look up the difference between ritual and routine.
Oh, okay.
So we seem to be in a bit of a definitive mood at the moment.
Yes.
Etymological. So rituals are meaningful activities that require careful focus and presence of mind. For example, daily walks or meditation. Routine is performed without conscious thinking, doesn't require careful focus and presence of mind. Things like preparing for bedtime or going to work. And so when I said about, it was you going to work, but it's not a trip that you make every day.
No, it was different.
Yeah. But that idea of preparation is kind of ritualistic, isn't it? The idea of, getting your stuff in the car, of taking a trip is ritualistic. It's not solemn, it's not sacred, but it is that kind of process, the ceremonial unwrapping of the chocolate bar. And we can turn really inane acts into something quite powerful through mindful ritualization. So whereas you could just not think about unwrapping the chocolate bar, you could take your time over it, and that would heighten your anticipation, and it would possibly even heighten the taste, because you've prepared for it, you put yourself into that state, and your expectations are rising, your saliva is increasing, and things like that. And I think agile teams can take advantage of that as well. Can you think of any particular rituals that you've seen or made use of?
I can think of one. Whether this is a ritual or not, I don't know. But so a good a group of a company that I've coached for many years. They're 3 teams, 4 teams, I can't remember, but they do a joint sprint review at the end of the sprint, and they got into a bit of a routine, whichever the word might be here, of theming their sprint reviews. So they would take time to explore and create like a poster. A poster. They generally put up posters around the office to advertise the sprint review, and to encourage people outside those 3 or 4 teams to come and join in and see what they've done. Yeah. But they did it in some really clever ways. Like they would take, one example that I remember was I think a bullseye theme. So they did like a TV show kind of based around darts, and it was advertising a bullseye kind of performance. They've done other ones based on like music festivals, like a music festival poster and even going so far as the fonts and the sizing of the letters, the way it was designed. It just looked, it drew your attention because it looked like something else, and then it encouraged you to read it. But it became a bit of a challenge, I suppose, for the next, because they used to rotate that round, and the next team would then have to pick that up and think of something else. But it kind of became an enjoyable advertisement that they used to do, an enjoyable part of the sprint review process. That's probably the closest, or the one that jumps out at me at the moment. Is that the type of? Do you think that class is a ritual? Or not?
Yeah, I would. I mean, there are quite a few. I actually quite like them, and I don't think I really used to use the word ritual.
No.
But actually, if I just share a few of the ones that I can remember, it would probably get you thinking, oh yeah.
Okay.
So getting in sprint planning session, for example, the team will say, before accepting something into the sprint backlog, say, yes, we can commit to that. That is a ritual process of saying we can commit to that. At the end of when they finished a user story product backlog, they would move that to the done column, or they would rip it up, or they put a big green tick. That's a ritual.
Okay.
We've completed this. One team, we used to bang a gong whenever they finished something, a little bit like someone who's working behind a bar will ring a bell when they get a tip, that kind of thing. When someone new joins the team, there's some kind of welcoming ceremony, if you like, where it's each team member, the existing team member will share a story about themselves and say welcome to the team, and this new person will share a story, or they'll go through a competency mapping exercise or a user manual exercise or something like that. So when you think about it, ultimately Scrum puts some rituals in place, these ceremonies. It's sprint planning meeting, the daily Scrum is a ritual, the retrospective is a ritual in itself, and as well as heightening positive feelings, rituals can heighten that sense, like that taste of the chocolate bar, or that completion of a user story. It makes you, yes, this is good, and we've done this, tick, bang the gong. A little bit of a Pavlovian thing as well, because even if you're not the one banging the gong, once you hear the gong, it reminds you of when you banged the gong because you completed something. So you're getting that vicarious good feeling. But it can also have a really useful purpose in reducing anxiety.
Okay.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, then usually you haven't got that sense of ownership and agency over what's going on. You feel like powerless. I can't cope with all this. There's too much going on. Then actually performing a ritual puts you back in control, and it takes you back to a place of safety, and your mind is focused on something. So that going back to that definition of a routine is something done unconsciously. A ritual is something done mindfully. By putting yourself into a position where you actually have to think about doing something, you're not thinking about everything else. So it reduces that sense of, this is something I have control over. I know how to do this. It's a good thing. Now, whether that's painting a picture, whether it's making something, whether it's writing up some notes, something that you can do that you have control over, it reduces that sense of individual and team level anxiety. So rituals are really, really useful for teams, I think.
There is the word ritual, because can have negative connotations, though, can't it? Let's explore that.
You can probably think you would be able to think of some more than me, but I'm sure you can think of some movies where there have been some evil rituals, satanic rituals, these kinds of things, because the word ritual it does come from generally religious ceremonies, and it often talks about sacred or solemn rituals, but they're also you think of being what's the word? I've got anointed into my head, but it's not the right word. But basically, being officially welcomed into a club, or a group, a team, that kind, or what's the word? Rite of passage. That's the classic
initiation
ritual. Initiation, yes. So they have equally positive things, but humans being humans, we generally remember the negatives more than the positives. It's a self-preservation thing, so we don't want to get involved in any satanic rituals. Some people do, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think but I'm going to bring a story back from my childhood now. You scratched the surface of something now, Geoff. Go back if you're getting a bit deep now. But I mentioned the word initiation there, and that word initiation for me in my late teens struck fear, because I used to play rugby for my local club back with my where my parents used to live in Devon. And one of the rituals, one of the ceremonies, whatever you want to call it, of becoming a colt at the time. So when you go through under 16s, you reach kind of the academy or colt stage. Was this, and I think it was probably at the time more of a rumor and a myth that an initiation happens from that kind of from under 16s. So, and I was to academy, and I was generally scared of it because it put me off. It put me off because I wasn't. It was generally involving drinking some kind of dirty pint, I think it was. For the benefit of our listeners, a dirty pint. What's a dirty pint, Geoff? How would you describe a dirty pint?
Well, basically, it's a mixture of all sorts of different drinks. So when I experienced it, you basically have an empty pint glass and you go around the room and someone would put a little bit of their drink, and they go to the next one, they put a little bit of their drink in, someone put a little bit of their drink in, and you'd have to drink the combination. It's not very
but it's in
don't
our
do
rugby.
That, kids.
No,
it's
don't
not
do
big.
that.
It's not clever.
It's not clever. But in our rugby club at the time, that was the rumor was that's what happened when you played your first game for the Colts, and that was, I think, initiations. I think rituals can sometimes put people off. I think they can be something that they appear so what's the word, daunting, insular, that it's, I don't want to be part of that. I'm quite happy not to be part of that. And I think that can kind of divide a lot of participation. Either you love that type of thing and this is absolutely what I should do, or you don't. And it's something that probably curbed my youth rugby career quite early, because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go through that ritual.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah. And I think I don't know, maybe we're not, maybe it's just my experience has changed, but I think I don't see as much of that anymore. I see more, welcome to the group, here's a t-shirt, here's your coffee mug.
But I've known people that didn't even want to throw a ball around at a daily scrum. They refused. I mean, that's a ritual, isn't it? About the idea of a talking token in a daily scrum. The idea that instead of, a bit of respect, and you'll only talk when you're holding something and we can all see, we're all looking at you because you're holding that pen or ball, whatever it is. But I've known people that said, no, I don't want to do that.
Well, I mean, you mentioned fear. And the fear for that dirty pint could be, it could make me ill. I might not be able to do it. I might look silly. Whatever might be behind it. And I don't. So part of me wants to say these rituals have to be meaningful for them to have a
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But they shouldn't invoke fear. They shouldn't. It's kind of you've got to cross a line. But that line shouldn't involve fear, shame, ridicule, pain.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. But it's. So I feel like I hijacked your story about
what?
Going to work.
No, it's good. No, it was an interesting meander, but that's what these things are all about. Because I find that idea of that ritual routine element quite interesting, and it's I wonder whether, I think it was just because I hadn't done it for so long, it felt new, and I think that was something that I probably missed, and I was convinced myself I was going to enjoy it. There we go. Jeff's got a book.
I've actually got a book called Rituals for Work, which I've got my little post-it notes in there. So let's see which ones I picked up that I thought would be quite interesting. So the first one is the anxiety wall. So before a performance review, when most team members feel anxious about what to expect, a physical space for getting a team's collective anxieties out, meant for high stress times. That's another one I've seen. Actually, ripping up cards or screwing them up, writing your worries down and then screwing them up and then putting them into a bowl or setting fire to them. Those kinds of rituals. What's the next one that I've got? Burn the argument. Okay, there you go. When a conflict arises and team members feel burnt out from negativity, write the argument down and put it in a heat-proof container before setting fire to it. What else have we got? We got elephant, dead fish, vomit. You heard of this one?
I've heard of those words in a game, but I can't remember what it was.
Okay, so when you want to encourage reciprocal, honest conversations among team members across an organization, try the ritual elephant, dead fish, vomit. It's a way to interrupt a meeting that doesn't seem to be honest enough and to structure a conversation. So anyone can say the phrase elephant, dead fish, and vomit, and then everyone in the meeting gets permission to speak their mind in a safe environment about big things in the room that are not being addressed, elephants, about things that are long past but still haunting the group, dead fish, and about things people just need to vent out without real goals, vomit. So yeah, it's a book, Rituals for Work, 50 Ways to Create Engagement, Shared Purpose, and a Culture that can adapt to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a kind of code words, kind of, yeah. And that can increase safety, that idea of, you know, we can, when we say that, we know that we're safe. We all know what that means.
Here's another ritual that we used to use.
Yeah.
The bullshit buzzer.
Still got mine somewhere. I can't find it now. But yeah, it's here. Yeah. So stick that on the table in the middle of a meeting or a daily scrum. And then
we slip into jargon or vague ambiguity,
we can, and it was a bit of fun. It's a bit different. It's kind of keeps you on your toes. Yeah, I think
so.
It's good.
Apart from the anticipation, and you said it wasn't just anticipation; it was a positive experience. What was positive about it?
Being asked questions, even though I get asked questions, it just felt more natural. I could move around. The environment was different. I felt more relaxed. I didn't feel like I was relying on. I felt people were with me, you know, really with me, because they were in a room and I can see everything that they're doing, whether they're, you know, on their laptops or whatever. So I just felt a whole sense more engagement and focus. Probably from,
they all had their cameras on, did they? What? No bags over their heads?
No, they all, I could see it, all their faces. But also I think it was probably, I was more focused. Now this is probably treading into a different territory now, but I feel over the last few months I've become less, even when I'm teaching, I've become less focused, more likely to multitask something, right? You know, my mind will wander that little bit more. And I think that's a little bit of monotony that's kicked in, the idea that because it's easy to, I find myself wondering a lot more, and I having to bring myself back. Whereas when I was teaching and literally on my feet moving around, I was fully immersed in it. And that it was a 2-hour lecture that I did at Bath University with a 10-minute break, so I didn't keep them in there for 2 hours straight. But that 1 hour 50 minutes just disappeared, even though I was probably I don't know, I felt like I got less across, but it went faster. I didn't get, it's weird, a weird scenario. I think I've just forgotten what it's like.
You mentioned about focus. My mind was going in a different place.
You weren't focused on what I was saying about focus.
Well, no, I was, but I was putting myself, I was running that through my filter.
Yeah.
Rather than really deeply listening to you and waiting to see where you went, I went off. I was still listening, but I was imagining it. So what does that mean for me? And for me, I found focus to be a bit of an issue for me with the online stuff, not in the same way. So having said that, I've just got a text from my wife. She sent me a picture that she's crashed her car. So that has taken my focus.
Okay.
But what I meant initially was I would find myself worrying too much about, is the technology working?
Yes.
Is the Wi-Fi working? Are people okay? that I wasn't focusing as much on the teaching and actually whether people were getting the information. And when I was in a room with people, there would still be times when I wasn't on as such, so I'd give them an exercise to do. But when I'm in the room, I could wander around and almost say, sometimes I would say, everything all right? Did that make sense? Do you need any help? Which is a lot harder to do, for me at least, online. So yeah, I found well, I kind of don't really know how to help people now.
Yeah,
when they're doing an exercise,
I had I've only had it once on that note during all of my lockdown courses, my online courses. Only one comment from all the teaching, which was, I wish you'd have, well, it would have been nicer to have more of your time in the breakout rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I generally made a point of, I'm not going to interfere in that. You can call me in and I will come and help, but I'm not going to stick my nose in. And I think you're right. I think it feels more invasive.
Yeah, if I join a breakout room, it disrupts the flow, whereas I can just sort of sign up to a table.
Yes. It does feel, and I feel like, it's probably says a lot about me, but I feel like I'd be a distraction, or I feel like people would stop talking if I suddenly appeared, because I think, oh, have we done something
But
wrong?
They do. And yeah. I don't think that's a theory. It actually happens. There's a ding dong when you join, and a new screen comes on. You can't do it surreptitiously, and that's a good. You don't really want that feature, do you? Being able to surreptitiously appear in a break room, that would cause all sorts of problems.
Yeah, but equally, it doesn't give people, like you say, the chance just to see you walking past their table, turn their chair, and ask you a question, because it's much more deliberate. And I remember Mike, when we spoke to Mike Cohn earlier in the year about, he said that he does do that, and he drops in, he drops into rooms and into delegate kind of breakout rooms. But I've never done it, and I didn't. Part of me, you get one piece of feedback that says, "Oh, I should do that," but I think generally people quite have enjoyed that little bit of that breakout, literally the breakout. I get called in every now and again, but that's on them to call me in.
No, that is a technology thing, because I did a keynote at a conference recently, Agile by Example, and they used a piece of software which isn't new, it isn't novel. There are other ones out there, and I've heard about it for a long time, where you've got an avatar on the screen and you wander around, and as you get closer to people, you can hear that conversation, or you can start a conversation with them. So we could technically run a class like that.
Yeah.
And I could wander up to that table without interrupting them. So it's just Zoom and Teams and things like that doesn't have that functionality. So the software is there. We've just got to make an effort to use it. But the principle still remains the same, of being in the room, and that's something I'm really looking forward to in a few weeks' time when we get back in the classroom with people. I think I didn't appreciate the good aspects of being in a room with people as much as I did. And you don't appreciate what you've got till it's gone, right? That's a classic line. No. And I think we will appreciate it much more next time. And I hope that we don't take it for granted again. So, okay. So this is an announcement just for listeners of the Agile Podcast.
Hot off the press, is this? This is hot off the press.
Paul has no idea what I'm about to say.
I've got no idea what Geoff's about to say.
So, it's a slightly delicate one, because I'm bringing out some special products, and my lawyers have told me that I'm not allowed to say what they are, because really I shouldn't be selling them. I can't publish what they are. So this is how it's going to work. And like I said, it's just for listeners of the Agile Podcast. And think Secret Santa. It's probably not the best metaphor, because nobody's actually buying me anything in return. But basically, a Secret Santa, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't, that kind of thing. So basically what's going to happen, if you go to my website and you go to the shop, you'll find, among other things, the Agile Podcast merchandise bundle, an amazing product in its own right, priced at an unbelievably low $14.99. Anyway, on that page, you'll now also find two more options. Okay, so you could just buy the regular Agile Podcast merchant bundle with the glass and the beer mat and the bottle opener, or there will be a Secret Santa option and a super Secret Santa option.
Wow.
Now, with those options, you'll get the merch bundle, but you'll also get either 1 or 2 surprise extra gifts. Like I said, my lawyers won't let me tell you what they are, okay? But you will get extra. And what I will say is that those products are artisanal. You'll have to look that word up, Paul.
Artisanal.
Okay. Artisanal.
Artisanal.
Artis, yeah. And not only are they worth more than the merchandise bundle itself, but some would say priceless. Okay.
Ooh.
And there are only a few available. Each one will have their unique batch number on. So,
wow.
So it's kind of a surprise. All right. But what I will say is I'll go on record now is if you do buy it and you don't like what you get, and I will be amazed if you don't like what you get, but if you don't like what you get, then I'll refund you. Because of exporting issues, you can only purchase products on my website if you're in the UK. So if you're outside of the UK and you want to risk the customs process, I'll set it as a gift so it kind of gets through. But email me, okay, Geoff@inspectinternet.com, and I'll organise a separate checkout process for you. There's a limited number. It's cool. It's a bit of fun, but I can't tell you what it is. There you go.
Is it Christmas themed, or is it or not? Is it just coincidence that it's going to be happening?
It's just coincidence, but and we might have to cut this bit.
Okay.
If you are joining us on our Agile Pubcast Christmas party on December the 17th, it would be very, very useful to bring this along with you.
Okay, nice, very good, excellent. Well, I'm excited. I don't know about anyone else. I'm excited. I'm now going to go online and have a look at that webpage.
Well, it won't tell you anything. It'll just say Secret Santa version.
You've created that sense of anticipation now.
Yeah.
Is that available now, Geoff? Is it available now?
It is available now. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So there you go, listeners. Get your orders in before Christmas, ready in preparation for the Christmas party.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
So yeah, there we go. Right. Thank you everybody for joining us on this latest episode of the Agile Podcast. That's me and Paul. We're out. My coffee cup is empty. Cheers to you all.
Cheers to everyone. Ta-da.